Some stories, they're more than just entertainment. They kind of feel like a blueprint, a real guide for figuring out the complicated, messy architecture of modern love. And today, that's what we're doing. We're looking at a story that gets right into how our past shapes our present and what it actually takes to build something that's meant to last.
And it all kicks off with this huge question, right? This sits at the very heart of the story of Maya and Arav. It totally flips the classic fairy tale thing on its head because it forces us to look inward, to think, hey, maybe the biggest walls we ever have to climb are the ones we build inside ourselves.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story begins exactly how you'd want a good romance to start, with one of those perfect chance encounters on a rainy day in a cozy secondhand bookstore.
And right there, in their first conversation, Arav drops this line. He's over in the mystery section, she's browsing romance, and somehow he bridges that gap with this one simple thought. It just perfectly captures their whole dynamic, right? His practical side and her romantic side. It's not some cheesy pickup line. It's a real invitation to a real conversation. And this is where you really see how they're wired differently. You've got Maya, the graphic designer, a total romantic who lives in the tiny details. And then there's Arav, the architect, who's a pragmatist. He's always seeing the big picture, the structure of things. There are these classic complementary opposites, and you can see why they're so drawn to each other. And that first real talk they have, late at night in her apartment, it goes so much deeper than just witty banter. They start sharing real vulnerabilities. He talks about his dad, she talks about her mom leaving, and it's that raw honesty that creates this immediate, powerful connection. It's more than just a spark. It's this deep feeling of, wow, you actually get me. But you know how it goes. A perfect beginning rarely guarantees a simple journey. So now we start to see how their personal histories begin to cast a shadow, and all those internal conflicts start bubbling to the surface. From Maya, everything, and I mean everything, comes back to this core fear of being left. Her mom just disappeared, no explanation. And that taught her a really harsh lesson, that love is unreliable. So to protect herself, she became fiercely independent, always on some level just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Her whole defense mechanism was to never, ever need anyone. Arav's fear, though, is just so tragically ironic. His own father left him with a note saying he wasn't built for love. So Arav is absolutely terrified of becoming that guy, of causing that same kind of pain. But here's the cruel twist. That very fear is what makes him pull away when things get real. He creates distance to try and avoid hurting Maya, which, of course, is the very thing that ends up hurting her. And this is what happens, right? Their separate anxieties start to collide in the worst way. Maya sees him pull back and she thinks, yep, here it is, the abandonment I always knew was coming. Arav feels her needing reassurance and he thinks, this is too much pressure, I can't do this. All of a sudden, those easy, comfortable silences they used to have are just filled with this suspicious static. And this right here, this is the fundamental truth of their whole situation. This line captures the tragedy of it all. It admits how fierce their love is, but it also names the real enemy, a wall built brick by brick from their own fears. It's such a powerful idea that love isn't some magic force that just smashes through everything. It can be completely blocked by the very walls we build to protect ourselves. So this all leads to the inevitable crash, the separation. But what's so fascinating is how they both deal with it. They each turn to writing, pouring out all the things they just can't bring themselves to say out loud to each other. In her unsent letters, Maya reveals this profound acceptance of Arav, flaws and all. She wasn't asking for him to be perfect. She was saying, I saw your vulnerabilities, the very things you were trying to hide, and I loved you for them, not in spite of them. And it's just heartbreaking because that's the exact reassurance he needed to hear, but never did. And then you look at Arav's letters, and you see a man who's just paralyzed by his own fear. It's not that he doesn't have feelings, it's that he has so much feeling, he doesn't know what to do with it. This one simple admission, it's terrifying, is just so vulnerable. It shows his silence wasn't about not caring. It was about being completely overwhelmed. They were basically having the same conversation, just in separate rooms.
Okay, so they've hit rock bottom. Now what? How do you possibly find your way back from that? This is where the story pivots from being a cautionary tale to being a hopeful guide. And it's not about magic, it's about intentional, really difficult work.
This slide really says it all, doesn't it? Their first try was a total whirlwind. It was rushed and filled with unspoken assumptions. Their second chance is the complete opposite. It's slow, it's intentional, and it's built on the one thing they avoided before, that brutal, messy honesty. They're not trying to recapture some old magic. They're trying to build something that's actually going to last.
So, what's the actual game plan? Well, it breaks down into these 3 key steps. And it's not just about saying, I'm sorry. Step 1 is to really acknowledge the past and the hurt they caused with no excuses. Step 2 is committing to having the hard, messy conversations instead of just avoiding them. And step 3, and this is the most important one, is to simply show up. Consistently. They learn that trust isn't rebuilt in some grand gesture, but in all the small, reliable, daily things you do. And all of this hard work, it leads them to the ultimate lesson of their whole story. They discover that real, lasting love isn't found in the dramatic, movie-like moments. No, instead, it's found right here, in these quiet, almost invisible daily acts of care. A second toothbrush holder appearing in his bathroom, that's not just about convenience, that's a statement. Picking the coriander he hates off their shared plate is a tiny act of service. These small moments become the bricks they use to build a foundation that is so much stronger than their first whirlwind romance ever was. Arav says this to Maya eventually, and it's a complete game changer. This is like their new mission statement. It's not about losing yourself in someone else. It's about interdependence. It means you make big life decisions in conversation with each other, not in isolation. They're building a real partnership where both people get to stay whole. So we circle right back to where we started, but with a whole new perspective. The story of Maya and Arav seems to suggest that maybe love isn't something you just find, like some treasure at the end of a map. Maybe it's something you build every single day. An active, conscious choice to show up, to be honest, and to construct a life together. And that feels like a thought worth holding on to.